I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
And this is Fish Jelly.
Yas, yas, yas.
How are you?
I'm exhausted. How are you?
I'm alive.
Mhm.
You returned from France yesterday.
I did. I come from France.
You were a little jet lagged.
Yeah, I still am.
And you woke up early today, which
Yeah.
is rare,
Uh-huh.
but probably because your sleep cycle's off.
Yes, very off. I woke up at 5 a.m.
But we'll probably do a video of
Probably or will.
Will, I guess, about what you liked and didn't like from Cannes. But
2023.
maybe you want to talk a little bit about it. But before we do that, I want to. We have more people who have sponsored us on
Oh.
Spotify, so I'd like to say thank you to them.
Merci beaucoup.
And we continue to get lovely things from people to the PO box, including there's someone who sends us their artwork,
Yeah.
and they write really nice letters to accompany them, which I often think I wish museums had. Well, they do. You can get the headphones and
Yes.
people talk, but I feel like that's the only way to look at art, or for me at least. I would love every piece I look at for the actual artist to explain it. It adds so much to it.
You want it contextualized, but what about for artists that weren't able to do that?
Then when you have when you take the tour and then an art historian or whomever is working at the museum will tell you about the piece, I feel like that's very, very helpful.
So
But just to wander around the Getty, I'm like, I don't understand what I'm looking at.
So you don't like the Roland Barthes theory about the death of the author? Like once it's out there, it doesn't matter what the creator intended or not, because
I think that people can interpret art whatever it means to them, fine, whatever. But I I think I've always, even in honors English and AP English, how people would argue about what something means, and it's like,
see that
I think that's weird.
I
Because we don't know.
Well, no, but I disagree because we all bring something else, and there's also I believe an artist has shades of their subconscious in their creations as well that they might not have been entirely aware of, or uh, with film, for instance, and everything that comes together in the making of a film that is speaking to the time that it was made in and the perceptions of the world around them, and how when you progress beyond that period, how you were able to kind of interpret those actions or those depictions in a way that the people themselves were not aware of.
Sure, sure. But then there are times when it's like someone says, this is about my dog that died drowning in a well. And then people want to argue that it's really about a lost love.
No, but that's certainly
I
true.
mean, things like that.
But that's a true. Okay, so true. It's about their dead beloved dog, but it is also speaking to these other components of that emotion. For
Sure. I don't
instance,
think it's that simple. I mean, I think there are many ways to look at art. But I think it's such an interesting thing to, when people get together and want to argue about what something is, when it's like, well, it really is about how it makes the person feel,
yes,
combined with all the other things you're saying, plus what the artist may have been able to communicate, oftentimes not. But
Mhm.
so I just I don't like talking about, like, I mean, even talking about movies is like people want to argue about it, and it's like, it's just my opinion. You could feel how you feel about it. Like, there could be multiple feelings or varying feelings about one thing. But I was just saying that the point I was trying to make is I like hearing from the person, like what they were thinking.
I'm going to do something now that's a quote from the Bible, which I'll never, is a pretty rare, but for now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. For I know in part, but then shall I know even more as I also am known.
What does that mean to you?
Seeing the world through a glass darkly, where we don't have all the answers.
No, we don't. But anyway, do you want to say anything about Can?
Oh, well, it was pedal to the goddamn metal this year. Oh my God. It was very busy, and I think that partially, of course, I insisted on seeing so much, but also the how the press schedule, how the schedule itself was outlined was also part of the problem. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed myself, but it definitely it feels like work in ways that Berlin and Venice do not feel like work per se. But however, I did write. I saw about 65 films. Probably have a couple screeners I'll catch up on this week. But I wrote close to about half of those. I covered every single competition film. I have written coverage on all of that, plus a scattered handful of other things from the sidebar, including the new Scorsese. Yeah, it was enjoyable, and overall, I think a good edition of the Cannes Film Festival. Overall, I was mostly happy with the jury selections awards. I guess we can wait. You want me to talk about that on our video review, or
What would you prefer?
it's up to you? Because I'm assuming I'll talk about my top 10 favorites, maybe my least favorites, and then the awards.
I guess it would make sense to keep all that together.
Sure. Of
But
course,
you can say what your favorite film was.
my favorite film was probably The Zone of Interest, the
Who?
Jonathan Glazer film.
Okay.
Uh, I don't. So they changed, I don't know, I think it was in the 2019 edition where they stopped press seeing the morning press screenings of the day's premieres because all of the one embargoes would be broken by asshole journalists, and also it would end up with that red carpet premiere of the film when the director and the stars were there. There would be a lot of instances where the press had already like absolutely creamed something, so there would always be there'd be this kind of crestfallen attitude all the time for some filmmakers, and I think it was maybe because of Sean Penn's The Last Face was so savaged, and that was kind of the last straw. So they changed it to where so now the press are seeing a lot of those screenings that we would have seen in the morning at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night that are always starting late, wouldn't get done till 1, 2 a.m., and then I'd still have to write and then get up at 7 a.m. to book tickets. So it was very busy. And in short, I don't really have time for can parties, nor do I want to go to them because it's people going along in reckless abandon that I don't have the time to be able to do that. But I did on my very last night go to the award ceremony for the Queer Palm because they have a palm dog. There's always they award the performance the best canine performance in uh, something across the program that went to the dog in Anatomy of a Fall.
Oh, that's a serious thing
It's a
that they
serious
really
thing.
do.
It's
Oh,
it's a
wow.
serious thing, but it's also a joke. But it also, in my head, coincides with they do the queer palm. So anything across the program that had any kind of queer representation, there's a jury that's assigned every year that,
Wait, what other? So they have a dog one and a queer one, and that's it?
and then of course the regular award ceremony, and you can count the Camera d'Or for the best first feature.
That seems kind of like in poor taste, no?
I don't think they intend the queer one to be that, but in my mind, like I said, it always goes to
Yeah, but
like,
you only offer three awards, the major one, and then you have one about a dog, which is clearly a joke.
no, of the major of the award ceremony, there are many awards that
No,
go
I
with it.
know, but you have the main ceremony with like serious, like awards given for serious filmmaking and acting, and then you have kind of a silly one about a like dog performance,
Mhm.
and then you have the queer one.
But those are all separate juries, separate events, if you will.
No, I understand, but I just think that seems kind of like I mean, you're putting me in like if I'm the queer one, you're putting me kind of in the it's like like at the music festival how they had the main stage with the big acts and then they had that small stage on the side and you knew like whomever's performing on that side one, they're not at the same
Well,
level.
that's how Can is very hierarchical and classist anyway, and but you can always read into the program anyway because there's the main competition, right? And then they have the sidebars like in Certain Regard and Directors Fortnight and Critics Week. Like those are all where you end up if you even are granted the chance to
Sure.
premiere there. Also speaks volumes to uh, a certain limitation by not
I've
being in
never
the
been, so
competition.
I'm sure talking out of turn. But anyway, go on with this
No, that's
queer
valid.
party.
The queer party. So, because I was done by 7 p.m. that night, so I had a dinner, one of the only few I had to sit down for, and went to the queer palm party where John Cameron Mitchell was the president of the jury and presented an award to. I already knew what it was ahead of time because there's already somebody that with loose lips that talks. So I knew ahead of time that the winner would be Hirokazu Koreeda for Monster, which is in the main competition. What is funny though is the before the festival starts, we know what's in contention for the queer palm per se. So we know what kind of is going to have queer content in it. Monster was one of two films added at the last minute because nobody realized it had queer content in it until it screened.
Oh,
So Koreeda, who is this very quiet, you've seen a Koreeda film, you saw his French movie, The Truth, with Catherine Deneuve and Juliette Binoche. We reviewed it.
okay.
But he's a Japanese filmmaker and has been making films, narrative features since the mid 90s. And I guess he took some convincing to accept it because what does that mean? What is that going to mean for the film to have the stamp that it won the Queer Palm for its release in Japan? It's not really there. It is a queer film by definition, but it's not also. It's also a story about childhood. It reminded me a lot of Lucas Dant's Close. So those are all the interesting things going on in the back. Meanwhile, John Cameron Mitchell is doing this thing where he is being the star of this show, and I think must have been high out of his mind. Kept talking about pots, trying to entertain the audience. We didn't need any of that. And then, of course, and gave a speech that I didn't think was very eloquent. Then Coreda is announced, comes up on the stage, and John Cameron Mitchell is screaming in his face, "He's a fucking human being." This we should all learn from him. And it's like, okay. Then goes on about how the first time he encountered a film of Koreeda's was 1998's Afterlife. He was the only person in this theater that it had no air conditioning. He took off all his clothes because he was sweating, so he was naked watching this Koreeda film, and how
Oh
it was a
God.
transformative experience. It just wanted somebody to be like, shut the fuck up. And then he had the gall to perform a song in Japanese from that film,
Oh wow.
Afterlife. No, nobody needed that. I was just very. It just felt very white, gay American person not reading the room is how it felt, and I was actually very disappointed. I don't know, because he's, besides a filmmaker, a notable DJ. uh I was just, yeah, I was not impressed with that.
Hmm. Well, I guess you'll have more to say in the upcoming video. But moving on, you've missed 2 episodes of Drag Race. We've stopped talking about Drag Race mainly because it just feels exhausting, and I'm not that interested in the new season. Is an all-star season, and I just
You've already told me that you refuse to rewatch those episodes.
oh, did I say that?
You said that you wouldn't be interested, well, refuse, you wouldn't be interested in watching them again.
No, I didn't think they were that great to begin with. I definitely don't want to rewatch them, so you can catch it. I mean, you can watch them, but I don't need to. I just don't think the cast is that interesting. Half of them feel like filler. Um, but anyway, mentioned that because then I thought, oh, I've never seen Dragula. Have you seen Dragula?
No.
So then, part of some streaming subscription we have, it's available online. So I watched their version of All Stars.
Hmm.
They have more than one, I think, but this one, or maybe not. I don't know. I don't know anything about Dragula except it's like Drag Race, but it's hosted by the Boulet brothers, who are more like spooky ooky drag.
Hmm.
And their All Stars was called Titans, so like Dragula Titans. And this was filmed or dropped last year. But I was very surprised. The quality of it is not as good as Drag Race, not surprisingly, but I was surprised at how, first of all, the judging is they're very nice because they really respect people's artistry.
Sure.
So they're kind of not, they're trying to be less critical of the aspects of someone's drag that are like,
Crunchy.
well, no, just like if this is your style of drag, then that's what you present. And
Right.
so we like that. It's
That's
just
your
like,
art.
how do you interpret that into the challenge versus like on Drag Race, Michelle wanting people to be entirely different characters.
Hmm.
And it's like, bitch, this is not the kind of drag I do. Why would I switch up today just for you? So I really liked their approach on that. And I really like that it shows the queens, there's far less drama and more about them like constructing garments. And then we spend more time with them presenting their garments. And but the main thing is that these people on this show are so creative.
Hmm.
I mean, it's funny how on Drag Race someone comes out with something, like Jimbo is like iconic looks, and it's like, I mean, Jimbo looks like his drag looks like a 5-year-old kid doing dress up compared to some of the shit these people on Dragula are doing,
Sure.
and they're like making half that shit on the spot.
Hmm.
It's pretty amazing.
Yes, because RuPaul's Drag Race no longer has space for that kind of creativity. It's
Well,
production. These people, these queens are supposed to come with looks that from designers ahead of time. Like all of that shit's lined up. Nothing is spontaneous anymore, really.
yeah, I mean, now to the editing. So not only is the production not as great on Dragula, but the editing is it's very slow, and I guess I'm a victim of modern sort of programming where everything's kind of like spastic and quick, and so I do, I guess, prefer that. Like I want us to get to the point, which is ironic because I usually don't get to the point. But yeah, but all that saying that I probably would watch the newest season of Dragula because I'm assuming they get better as time goes on. I didn't finish Titans though. I only watched like 4 episodes, but I was more impressed than I thought I would be.
And Titans like Titans.
Yes.
Okay. When you initially said it, my mind went to like Titans, like tighten the
Oh, tighten the
tighten the
screw.
hatches.
Tighten the screw.
Batten the hatches, tighten the screw.
And then I also finished watching the Miss Pat show. Like it's still ongoing, but all the episodes that have been released.
It's
Um,
3 seasons so
it's
far.
3 seasons, but I think they split up season 3 into 2 parts. So
Okay.
it's only like 10 episodes that are available now. But I have to say, you've never seen a situation comedy about a family like this. And it's on BT Plus, so they
Mm-hmm.
have carte blanche to do whatever. So it's very adult. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, any anything you can think of. The only thing I don't think this I think there is a joke about bestiality, but no one's actually doing it. But other than that, anything you can think of.
Well, the episode, one of the episodes I watched before I left was she's like, I had an abortion the other day. Like, what?
Oh, that's not even, I mean, it's like incest and drugs and the the oldest son is like has to become a stripper to make money, and then at one point he's dating this bisexual woman, and his half sister that is a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
So he ends up going to a threesome with this lady. Like his girlfriend, the lady he's dating is hosting a threesome. So he
Mm-hmm.
comes, and the other person is his sister.
Oh, well.
Oh my god! But I do have to say, so Denise, played by Tammy Roman,
Mm-hmm.
like watching all the episodes back to back, she really is quite the actor. Like I think she's my favorite part. She's
Really?
pretty funny. Yeah, season 1 was a little crunchy, but yeah, she gets so much better, and her character, like I'm assuming because people probably liked her, she became more integral into the show.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I think they benefit from the children. There are 4 children. The oldest lesbian daughter, I don't think is the greatest actor, but the other 3, I think, really do elevate this show. And the husband, I think, oh my God, there's so much. He finds out his dad, who's played by Richard Lawson, Beyonce's stepdaddy, is like not really his dad. And I probably cried like at least every other episode.
Wow.
But unfortunately, I think Ms. Pat, for sure, she's not a good actor
No.
to
Well,
the
she does
point.
her thing, and that's her thing, you know?
But and it doesn't get better over which is kind of surprising because Tammy Roman
Yeah,
definitely.
but Tammy Roman's more of an actor. Miss Pat's a personality.
But even like her because every episode starts with her doing like a
Mm-hmm.
1 minute set. Even that's crunchy. Like the jokes are funny, but it sounds like she's trying to do. It's like scripted stand up, so it feels very
Well,
like.
that's how Seinfeld would start his
Oh, did it?
episodes. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I still would recommend it. just because you've never seen these topics handled in this format, and it's kind of refreshing. Um, they get some really cool cameos in, like Marla Gibbs, Tommy David. Oh my God, Tommy Davidson. He's in 2 episodes, and he plays like their cousin, who's kind of like Mary Poppins. Like he's like a mystical creature.
Hmm.
I thought that was excellent. But anyway, enough about Miss Pat.
Speaking of Richard Lawson, I happen to know, had a private event premiere of a film he directed at Cannes,
Oh,
called Black Terror.
it's a horror film.
It is a adaptation of the Richard Wesley play,
Oh,
that I've never seen. I would have to read what it's about because I'm not sure what the narrative is, but I know that he wrote it. Like he wrote a couple of Sidney Poitier films.
oh
You're
wow.
familiar with him in some capacity for sure.
Well, moving on to films released we didn't cover. About My Father.
Yeah, there's a lot we didn't cover this week since I was gone, but this looks like a terrible comedy starring Robert De Niro as somebody's grandpa that's coming back. I saw snippets of previews, but I don't know what it's about. But it's directed by Laura Taruso.
Kandahar.
Okay, so I watched this while I was at Cannes, and you were supposed to watch it too, but you didn't finish it because we were going to review it. But I did see this, and I did not like it.
Well, I didn't finish it because I think the link I was provided expired while I was watching it. So I only watched the first 20 minutes, and it was pretty dull. So I didn't.
It's very dull.
It just seemed like your standard like thriller.
Gerard Butler film directed by Rick Romanois.
It just felt very dry.
It was
Yeah.
very dry. It was a struggle to get through, especially in that environment.
The Machine.
Peter Atencio directs this film. I know Mark Hamill has I forget what it's about, but it's a comedy. Mark Hamill has a supporting role.
You Hurt My Feelings.
I did see this out of Sundance this past year. Julia Louis-Dreyfus stars. It's cute-ish and interesting. It's a Nicole Holof Center film. Julia Louis-Dreyfus plays the successful author, and she happens to overhear her husband by accident say that he can't stand her new novel, that she's having trouble getting published, and then she doesn't quite sure now how to handle that.
Blood and Gold.
This is a World War II thriller about a German looking for his child and an SS man looking for some kind of Nazi treasure. It's a Netflix release directed by Peter Thorwarth.
Willow the Wisp.
I wish we had. It's very short. I think I will probably try to make you watch this at some point. It's a Portuguese film director that I really like, João Pedro Rodrigues. I saw this out of Cannes Directors Fortnight last year, so exactly a year ago. Very interesting film about colonialism, Belgian history. It's a gay romance musical. It's very sexually graphic. There are so many things going on in this like 80-minute running time, but I think that you would be interested.
Lastly, The Wrath of Becky.
This is a sequel to Becky, which we did review during the pandemic, about that little girl named Becky, and there's a home invasion, and
Is her mom black?
yeah, her mom,
she's a white girl.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember that.
directed by Matt Angel and Suzanne Coote. Well, that sequel.
Oh, that's right, because Kevin James plays like a
yeah,
white supremacist,
one of the infiltrators. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that came out. I'm sure we would. If I had been here, I'm sure we would have watched it.
Yeah, I would be interested in that. Okay. Projects of interest, Juror number 2.
Clint Eastwood has finally announced that he's only making one more film. So that is cause for celebration, maybe, because there have been a lot of bad ones recently. But he's got an all-star cast for his latest, including Kiefer Sutherland, Nicholas Hoult, Toni Collette, and I think I'm missing somebody else. But that could be interesting. Yeah.
And there are only 2 movies for fun. Spy Game.
There are movies I watched on the plane coming back. Yeah, Spy Game. I remember we had this on VHS, and my dad hated this movie, which is probably why I never watched it. So I watched Spy Game with Robert Redford and Brad Pitt, and it was directed by Tony Scott. And it is very much a 2001 film. Charlotte Rampling has a very brief role, which is the only reason you can fast forward to her one scene. There's a countdown mechanism where Redford is this CIA agent. He's on his last day. He's retiring that day. And then he's roped into some situation where an old agent he trained, Brad Pitt, has been caught in some operation in this Chinese prison, and the Chinese are going to kill him in 24 hours. And basically the agency is looking for a reason to let him go, let him be killed. So they're interviewing Robert Redford and recording it in this ridiculous fashion. And every so often, somebody should make a compilation of the moments where the screen goes black and white and it shows like a countdown of how much is left. And the shots they get of Redford look so awkward and stupid. And then there are all these clips of Brad Pitt being abused in this Chinese prison that are terrible. And then there are all these flashbacks to when they both met initially in Vietnam and then in West Beirut in the 80s. Brad Pitt's hair looks like it was shaved off a Ken doll and pasted on his head.
Oh,
It is not good.
and you also watched French Fried Vacation?
Which I think that's the English language title of, I think it's Les Bronzes. It's a Patrice Leconte film. It was a big hit.
Patrice O'Neill,
He
Patrice Russian.
because he directed a sequel and then in the 2000s, I think a third one. I hated this movie. I think it speaks to a certain time of in place of like French comedy. That said, there are a lot of very notable people, including Joseanne Belasco, who I barely I kept wondering where she was going to pop up, and she was in front of me the whole time. But it's about this group of French people that go to like this African village named Ghana Swanda. It has an energy that's a lot like something like Grease from the same time period. I hated it. I didn't think anything was funny. It is Michel Blanc plays this nebbish, nerdy little man that everybody's demeaning. Yeah, I
There's
did
a
not.
French Fried Vacation Part 2.
Yeah, as I said, there's a trilogy.
Oh, a trilogy.
Mhm.
Okay.
The third one's in like 2006. But Patrice Leconte directed a lot of very serious films. I think his biggest is stars Vanessa Paradis, The Girl on the Bridge from 1999. I believe he's dead now, but yeah, this is a film I've known about for a long time, knowing it was a big French comedy hit in the 70s, but I did not like this movie.
Let's take a break. Unfortunately, there are entries in the obituary section. Kenneth Anger died.
Uh-huh.
He's a filmmaker.
Oh yeah, he's a very iconic filmmaker, of course, for
I haven't seen any of his films, though.
the short films.
I have?
No, I guess not. You've never seen Scorpio Rising,
No.
but I did for Halloween make myself a Scorpio Rising jacket, and we went out on the town. That was probably almost a decade ago now. But yeah, he was 96, I believe, but an important filmmaker for sure.
Well, he looks like a very colorful person.
Hmm.
He died at the age of 96. And then, of course, Tina Turner died this past week,
Yeah,
which, we knew was coming. In the Tina Turner doc, she revealed that she had pretty serious health issues.
yeah,
And then she did make it. There's the musical about her life on Broadway, and she didn't make it out to that, but it was clear that, like, that was quite the track. So,
yeah.
but her, yeah. I mean, I feel like she's been a big part of like everyone's lives
Hmm. For a long
for a
time.
long time. And yeah.
Well, because you said you wanted to kind of review What's Love Got to Do with It, but
And then I decided not to
yeah,
because in the documentary, she talked about sort of not wanting that story to define her life because she didn't let it define her. And I
yeah,
thought, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like, she wasn't just a battered woman.
yeah.
I
She
mean,
was so much more than that. But
yeah. And I think she represents strength and such an elegant, like, beautiful woman. And also, when she came back in the 80s with those big hits, that lady was in her 40s.
hmm,
So I think it's like an inspiration.
hmm,
Like, I mean, it's never too late to take control. But yeah, I remember just being really captivated by her. And of course, the songs "What's Love Got to Do with It" and "Private Dancer."
hmm.
Um, I mean, those are still such great songs. But my relationship with her became, so she had an album called Wildest Dreams, so we know, like, Oprah was like the biggest Tina Turner fan, and she would have her on her show quite often. But then I don't know if you remember, Oprah used to have a segment called Wildest Dreams where she would,
Hmm.
and that was kind of based off of that.
Hmm.
And I had that album, and there are a couple of songs on there that I associate with some pretty, like, bad memories, but then they make me feel,
Yeah, same actually.
yeah.
Because
So
not from that album, but that one she did in the late '90s was a very tumultuous time for me. But I'm, you know, the heartache is over. I
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah,
River Deep Mountain High though is my favorite.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Pretty damn
But I feel like I could
amazing
talk a
film.
lot about her.
But no, I thought you were so not what's love got to do with, but her performance as Auntie Entity in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome would be fun too.
But I've seen that, and I don't know that I thought like, did I love that movie?
It's
I
fine.
don't think I did. Well, maybe we'll see. Um, but really, it's the music, and
Hmm.
her career outside of the United States was like beyond big.
Hmm.
So I'm sure for a lot of people in the United States, they don't recognize how huge she was. But yeah, she's a huge, huge, huge star. But moving on to our secret film, this one was a doozy
Which is your selection.
because we did a poll. We had a live review a few weeks ago where the theme was Lynn Whitfield because
Hmm.
I mistakenly thought that it was her birthday, but I was very off. But some of the selections, the film, the Josephine Baker story was chosen, but one of the options was the 2012 musical drama film Mama I Want to Sing. And just from the poster art and the cast, I was looking forward to watching this film.
Hmm.
And then you bought it. Um, it is not what I was hoping for at all.
No,
Um,
the title could have been "I Want to Be a Singer." Do
I don't even think. Well, we need to talk about it because I don't even really think the title makes sense.
no, because it's really a mother and it is. It's like a mother
It's almost like a
daughter.
family
Is a family
drama.
drama competition story.
It well here.
It's based on an off-Broadway play, and this was directed by Charles Randolph Wright. I think it wasn't intended to, but was released direct to DVD in this country in 2012.
Well,
And he's since gone on to do mostly television, including he directed Ms. Whitfield in 8 episodes of Greenleaf.
I was going to say this film kind of feels like the precursor to a show like Greenleaf, but
Sure.
we can get into it. Anyway, the premise on IMDb says a preacher's daughter, Amara, sings in the church choir before being discovered by a well-established musician. Soon she rises to international fame as a pop singer. So that description is misleading because you would think the entire film leads up to her. So like a la Glitter or maybe something like Double Platinum with Diana Ross and Brandy. No, that synopsis I read, all that happens in the first like 10 minutes of the movie.
Also, her name is not Amara, it's Doris. Amara is the stage name they give her.
So Sierra is Amara, but her character's name is Doris, and then her stage name is Amara. But anyway, yeah, that description happens in the first 10 minutes. The film is really about, oh my God, it's like, it's not, I really didn't like this movie. I thought it was terrible.
It's terrible.
It looks bad. Like the cinematography's horrible, the lighting's horrible, the audio's horrible. Like a movie called Mama I Want to Sing, the music is atrocious. And then of course when you think Sierra, the last thing you think is vocalist, right?
Sure.
And then and it seems like no one who was part of the making of this film also thought of her as a singer because really she sings like maybe we hear her singing a few times, but the majority of the music in the film is not her voice.
No.
It's other people singing, including the younger version of Sierra's character. So her as a younger girl is played by a different actor, and that little girl can sing. So we hear more of her singing than Sierra. But yeah, this is a big, big thumbs down. It was very hard to sit through because it's not melodrama. It's just like overly because to me melodrama means like over the top soap opera ish,
Sure.
like I mean this isn't like a Tyler Perry film where it's kind of so ridiculous you kind of chuckle, and this movie's taking itself very seriously.
Well, it's
In
initially it's
earnest.
almost like it's supposed to be A Star is Born, except between a mother and daughter. But then it really loses sight of that too, because there are all these scenes where the father dies, and then when Amara grows up, her mother has become this very famous preacher named Dr. Winter on this network called is it Revelation Net Media or whatever, and we keep being told that she's in constant, she might be about to lose her throne, right? And then that keeps not happening. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't, oh God, it's just not even fun to talk about. So the basic story is basically what you said is that Sierra is a preacher's kid and her dad dies on the pulpit and you see it coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
And it happens like in the first 5 minutes that the dad dies in the pulpit. But as like the sermon he was giving right before he died was about following the like whatever God put inside of you, that dream, you need to follow that. So of course Sierra's like, well, my dream's to be a singer, so I'm gonna do it even though my mom doesn't want me to. The plot point that made no sense to me is, so the dad dies and then the mom, in parallel with the daughter, they both become very famous.
Yes.
But then Billy Zane is in the movie playing like a record label owner slash songwriter,
Uh-huh.
and he's probably the only camp part of the film because
Yeah.
he's playing it. How would you describe his performance and character?
OTT, he is being over the top, but also there are other moments where it seems like he's forgotten how to act or doesn't care.
It's definitely a choice, but the part that confused me so much is the timeline of when Sierra becomes famous, because it seems like they're making her seem like she's on the level of like a Beyonce. I mean, like she's huge, but then at that moment we're also being told like it's her first performance or
Well,
her debut. I don't understand.
there's a scene in 2002 when that's when we are introduced to Sierra
Billy Zane and Sierra,
and then she's recording, and then what's his name, Hill Harper
is her manager out of nowhere.
and his girlfriend, who's what's her name, that's dead,
Kim Porter, P Diddy's baby mama.
So and then it skips ahead to now, which would have been ostensibly
7 years later.
2010.
Well, they say 7 years
Okay.
later. So then it took 7 years
for her to pop
off. And then anyway, that timeline. But then also, so now she's a super big pop star, but then her mother is like the TD Jakes
of her Revelation Network, and they're performing at the same convention.
And then they're at the same convention. But anyway, so Mama I Want to Sing is stupid because she's been singing.
Yeah.
Like, and she's not asking her mom's permission. She's already a huge star. There's no turning back. So, but then she has a brother. And I knew we were in trouble with this film from the opening, because the opening of the film is this little boy in black and white walking through like what looks like New York, taking pictures. And this little boy's acting, I mean, he can't even pretend to take photos well. So I knew we were in trouble. But that turns out to be Sierra's brother. And now as a grown-up, his dream is to be a photojournalist. But of course, he's relegated to, I guess, being the personal photographer of his sister
and mother. Like he gets called away on both of their projects.
And the real gag is that whenever we see him take photos, it looks like it's almost like the eyes of Laura Mars. You clearly don't know what you're doing. And then when we see samples of his work, these are not good photographs.
No.
But so then another plot. So then there's contention between the mom and the daughter that feels so flat because you both are successful.
Well,
so what is the point?
It's like Mama I Want to Sing, but the Lynn Whitfield, Dr. Lillian Winter, is mad about her daughter's dressing, how she's being styled on camera.
Yeah, that's a good point. Lynn Whitfield, the mom, doesn't seem to have an issue with her daughter singing. She comments most often about how her daughter basically looks like a prostitute,
right.
which she doesn't.
Which she doesn't also.
Yeah, Sierra looks like, some of those outfits look like she could go to church in those.
She could have been in church, yeah.
Yeah. So I was very confused by that. I can't say enough how terrible the music is.
Yeah.
The gospel stuff is like standards, like, probably in the public domain, but then like the poppy stuff, specifically like the songs that made Sierra a huge star, are terrible.
Yeah.
Like beyond terrible.
And then as Lynn Whitfield's dad, Ben Vereen, shows up at the same convention. They're in New Orleans at a convention.
He's actually the best part of the film, I think. His performance seems like the
natural.
The most natural and appropriate. Lynn Whitfield is obviously,
I think she's fine.
She's like, yeah, she does the best she can with the material, but the writing is horrible.
It is.
Especially her preaching. Like whoever wrote this,
she's preaching about these women that look like hoes to a group of women that look like hoes.
And why would these hoes be in the front row of like a gospel motivational preacher lady, first lady speaker woman?
And their men that they're with are going in on the clapping and cheering. That's
Yeah, why would you bring? First of all, why would these men want to go see first lady preacher woman speaker Lynn Whitfield and then bring some hoes with them?
and Lynn Whitfield in that scene is wearing this Marlena Dietrich type tux,
Oh,
sparkly bejeweled tux.
if you mix Marlena Dietrich with the Planters Peanut Man, that's how Lynn Whitfield looks.
Oh, but she looks beautiful. She does.
She's stunning.
You know, for how bad the cinematography is, Lynn Whitfield still manages to look really
Oh,
good.
you know Lynn Whitfield is stunning because the cinematography and the lighting are horrible.
They're atrocious.
Horrible.
But she still looks good.
And she looks amazing.
Mhm.
Hair laid, face beautiful. Her outfits are really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also make her seem like she's kind of like a corrupt. This really feels like it needed to be a TV series like Greenleaf because they're doing way too many things because I didn't even finish. So the brother who's a photographer, he gets an opportunity to be like a military photographer. So he's going to Baghdad.
Yeah.
And then so he has to go through basic training. When he gets to Baghdad, his ass immediately gets kidnapped by some insurgents or something.
Uh-huh.
So now this is like the final act of the film. So Sierra and Lynn Whitfield are on TV crying about bringing my brother back home.
Mm-hmm.
We can get to when they find out he's died, but he dies, and then there's a funeral. And then finally at the funeral, it would seem mother and daughter might get along, but that's not, I mean, we don't know that.
We don't know that, no.
So this entire story does like it gives us nothing. There's no arc because both of the main characters, Lynn Whitfield and Sierra, they find success very early on in the story and they maintain that throughout. And then the brother just gets killed and it seems to not bring them together. So what was the point of that?
Well, and then both of them are have been competing kind of with each other. That isn't really, we haven't really fostered that kind of resentment that is there between them. And then both of them are treated to rivals in their own particular domains. Like there's this other girl, Nicole, that
We have to talk about
that Billy Zane's trying to bring up, and then Lynn Whitfield's network. Some lady accidentally gets some screen time and they're like, we want to make her the star.
Well, here, let me get through these notes because I don't want to have to take another break on this movie. But okay, so the timing when we meet little Sierra, how old does that girl look?
She's like 12, 13.
And so of course we're like, well, this has to be young Sierra. This girl does not look like she would grow up to be Sierra.
No.
So that was distracting.
More like Jordan Sparks.
Yeah. Then the transitions and the editing in this movie are so harsh because we see this little 12, 13-year-old girl singing at her dad's funeral. And then immediately we cut to Greenwich Village 7 years later.
Greenwich Village, where fucking Sierra and Patti LaBelle are performing side by side,
singing the most terrible song that I couldn't even tell you what genre it was.
They are on stage still singing. The song is going on, and Patti LaBelle like takes the mic away from her face and be like, "Honey, baby, I just want to talk about how proud I am of you."
Well, hold on. Some people might know this reference I'm about to say, but there's that interview where someone asks Mariah Carey, would she ever do a song with J-Lo? And then Mariah goes, well, I can't even think what that would sound like. It would sound like Sierra and Patti LaBelle in this movie singing. Yeah. It just made no sense. Yeah. It made no sense.
But that is Patti's voice.
Yeah, it is Patti's voice and it is Sierra singing, but it's just a horrible song.
It's
anyway,
because they put Patti in the background.
But then we're told 7 years later. But then Sierra says she's still in high school.
Yeah, she's 17.
So that means that the girl was only 10?
Because
that girl does not look 10.
That's true, yeah.
Okay. And then Sierra does not look like she's in high school. She looks like she's in her 20s.
She does.
But so then we go from that where she's being told like, then we see her in this nightclub with Patti LaBelle. Don't know what kind of club this is that you have Patti LaBelle and Sierra singing a whack ass gospel pop song. I don't know what it was.
They always look like they're on the same stage though, and like it's the opening moments of David Lynch's Blue Velvet.
Yes, every performance looks like they only had one stage setup and they just changed the curtain. Mm-hmm. Then again, another hard transition. We end up in Hollywood. Like immediately we transition to Hollywood, and we know that because we have, I don't if it was B-roll, it looks more like stock footage of like Hollywood.
It looked like Bravo.
And we see that her manager's Hill Harper. She's like kind of doing the thing. And that's when we meet Billy Zane. And we're told that his character is like a handful.
Uh-huh.
And when we meet him, he delivers.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we see Sierra in the sound booth with Billy
And
Zane.
he starts singing.
Oh my God. He tries. So it's so meta that Billy Zane is trying to teach Sierra to sing because it doesn't matter who would have been in that booth. Sierra cannot sing. And then he's singing to her, trying to act like he's singing like soul music. And at
Yeah.
one point, he even says, "You've got to inject some serious soul into this."
Yep.
And then this bitch starts singing about collard greens, macaroni and cheese, black eyed peas, ham hocks. I can't believe.
But they go back and forth. They volley on that, which
and
is really
and
awkward.
Billy Zane sounds more soulful than Sierra.
He does, and his falsetto was not the worst, but eh, it's cringy.
But we see that. So then we go from the 2002 to present day, like you mentioned. So that was very confusing. Like, okay, so she's recording with this big time guy, and it took 9 years for her to pop off. But then we see that this performance at the Radio One event is um like a super big deal for her. I just think the story makes no sense.
It
Like
doesn't.
it's not calibrating where we are in this person's career to then call it "Mama, I Want to Sing." But anyway, Sierra gets up there and does this upbeat performance, looking I mean, the song is terrible, the staging, the choreography is terrible, and then, like you mentioned, her mom is also at that same convention giving one of her motivational speeches.
Uh-huh.
And the mom's Lynn is saying Sierra looks like a prostitute, which
Well,
she doesn't,
but she was made to change at the last minute because Billy Zane flexes.
with a really awkward scene.
Yeah, that is really stupid. But he's like, now she's really going to perform because she's angry.
But then so Sierra sings the one song she's supposed to sing, and then she goes rogue and does this a cappella version of some slow song. And the lyric is, "Right now, I'm finding my voice," which is so because she has no voice. But you know what it made me think of? The episode of Got to Be Real when Tony Braxton is talking about Mary J. Blige. And she goes, "Isn't it ironic that you sing about struggling while actually struggling?" That's how Sierra sounded singing "Right Now, I'm Finding My Voice."
Uh-huh. See, this is where we're looping this back to the beginning of this conversation about death of the author, because most certainly this was not an intention, but now we're reading
Sure.
meta levels of analysis
Sure.
into Mama, I Want to Sing.
You're right. Yes. I'm not refuting that. But so then at the same Radio One thing, Sierra's interviewing with this woman named Lola, this Asian, I guess, like entertainment reporter who's real problematic.
She is, and she comes back.
She's talking to her like she's trying to talk to her like that clip of Ross Matthews talking to Beyonce about being ghetto. Like that's how Lola's acting. And then Sierra's saying like, "I sing all types of music, jazz, blah, 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 heavy metal." And then Lola goes, "Heavy metal? Isn't that satanic?"
Yeah.
The writing in this is horrible.
It's really bad. Lola comes back for a television interview, and the way those two are leaning into each other, it's like, this is not how
No, it was so terrible. But before that interview, at the same Radio One performance, Sierra is sitting in the back and she's supposed to go do another interview, and her publicist walks in and tells her that you can't leave until you get your makeup touched up because you look like Britney Paris and Lindsay after an all-nighter.
which she does not at
But
all.
she doesn't look at all like she's not fresh.
No.
The way they keep referring to how Sierra looks is crazy.
Yes, I agree.
She looks very put together.
Mhm.
Does not look like a prostitute.
Nope.
I don't understand what's happening. I think it's funny that the soundtrack, while the songs are terrible, that it's padded with people who can actually sing.
Mhm.
And even Sierra there are like 3 moments where we see her singing, but it's the voice of the younger girl.
Yeah.
Like they don't even have Sierra singing her own songs.
Do you like so when this was made, I think they probably shot in like 2010, how they're trying to grapple with the advent of streaming.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
they don't quite know how to. They know that it probably needs to be mentioned, but they don't really know how to, because at one point, Linwood feels like, oh, the streaming, it was a hit. We had 50,000 viewers.
And then the problem is, I mean, they make the mistake of showing the computer screen because we get a shot of like a travel website
Yeah.
that like someone's using to book a flight, and it's like, why would you do that?
No.
Don't you know in 5 years it's going to look crazy? Um, oh God, I didn't want to have to take another break, but
Oh,
here we are. Hold on. Getting back to the brother, there are like 3 or 4 moments where we see him taking photographs looking like he doesn't know how to hold a camera,
yeah.
and then they make the mistake of showing us the photograph he took.
Yeah.
For instance, there's no one likes Lynn Whitfield. No one wants to be around her. Her 2 children or nor her dad want to be around her,
Yep. Yep.
um because she's just like this preachy hypocritical person. But the 2 children show up to breakfast and they get into an argument, but then the brother's like, I have to take a picture, and they show us the picture, and it's like the worst angle possible.
They couldn't take the time to snap a good picture of these two ladies.
And then speaking of the cinematography, we get like like a lingering shot of the downtown Los Angeles skyline to show we're in Hollywood, and they chose like the smoggiest day.
Yeah.
The film just looks so bad, and then it's like, and then you deliberately choose bad shots.
Yeah, you could wait for it to be I don't know why it had to be so rushed, I guess, but they did it.
Lynn has a photo shoot with her son where she's wearing that tulle.
Yes.
Oh my
And
god.
he's like on the top of some watchtower,
Why?
and they're screaming at each other because she's getting impatient. But there's no way he could have gotten a good shot, because there are people standing and staring in the background, and then this like tool, this this bag full of tools on the ground right near her.
It is the most
It's not staged.
ridiculous thing, and then her character's being so annoying. Lynn's like every speech, like every line of like whenever she has like a monologue or she's giving one of those like preacher speeches, it feels like word soup.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like this does not I don't know what's happening. Okay, there are some interesting cameos. Like Paris Bennett is in it. She was on
Oh
American
yeah.
Idol over a decade ago, and I believe her grandmother is in the Minnesota-based group Sounds of Blackness. But anyway, there's a scene where Paris Bennett is on Lynn Whitfield's TV show because Lynn Whitfield's character, like you mentioned, started this television network, and then she has a talk show, variety show kind of thing. So Paris Bennett is singing, and she can sing. She's a very talented singer. And then we get, while she's singing, we get Sierra watching from home on a stationary bike,
Uh-huh, with the headband on.
which I also thought was meta. Like she's watching this woman who can actually sing. And then Lynn Whitfield's like, you're the kind of, she basically on live TV says, like, you're my daughter now.
Yep.
I'm adopting you.
Yep.
And then Sierra gets mad and turns off the TV.
But at first, like Sierra's reaction to watching this girl, like she's like smiling and she's like, "Oh, this is lovely."
Oh my God. Then there's another plot. Like, again, this was meant to be like a series, like a melodramatic soap opera series, because Lynn Whitfield's character has an assistant, this younger white woman, who we
Mhm.
see challenging her at a few points, basically saying she's kind of a hypocrite.
Mhm.
And then out of the blue, because we're told that Lynn Whitfield's show might be picked up for syndication by a larger network.
Yep.
And then just out of the blue, we're told, oh, actually, they prefer your assistant's show.
Yep. And with her, we can get access to 20 more countries. But why or how that was?
Well, they just say like, oh, it's like a younger, we can reach like a younger Christian. It like the writing's so terrible.
Uh-huh.
The so now like again, they're taking us everywhere because they're also maybe trying to insinuate that Sierra's character is kind of like plateaued and now
Mhm.
there's new blood coming. So
Yep.
Billy Zane has this new artist named Nicole.
Nicole.
Child, when we see Nicole, I don't know what you thought she looked like, but I thought if you took Donatella Versace and put a brunette updo on her, That lady's jarring looking.
She's better looking than Donatella.
Maybe if you mix Donatella with Gina Gershon, that
Uh,
well, the
who
point
played
of
her?
oh, that's right.
She played Donatella. Yeah.
The point of this Nicole person is she's supposed to be like an ingenue, like the new fresh thing. That lady fully looked like she was in her 40s.
She looked and
And she's dressed.
she's dressed in a prom dress made of fish scales. Is
No,
what it
you know
looks
what
like.
she's dressed like? That Netflix movie with Jennifer Aniston, where she's like a beauty pageant winner, and now her daughter's like that chubby girl,
Dumpling.
Dumpling. And
Okay.
you know how Jennifer Aniston dresses to go to the pageants?
Sure.
That's how this lady looked.
Yeah.
Like a well put together 50-year-old.
Yeah.
But she's like the new hot young, like she's supposed to be like Ariana Grande in 2011.
I don't. So then they try to make them do a duet. Like I don't know if they're trying to do like a Monica Brandy thing, but
Maybe that duet was a full ass mess.
yes.
And then when they do the duet, Billy Zane is in the room yelling at them.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, it's terrible. It's terrible. And I know this is not funny, but when the brother gets kidnapped in Baghdad, watching Lynn and Sierra on TV asking for his return just felt so crunchy.
Because it's bad. It's hokum.
Lynn's character always has a pearl necklace on.
She certainly does. Yeah. She is eleganza.
Again, this is not funny, but when the military comes to the house to tell Lynn her son's dead, wow.
She's like,
acting a plum fool.
I don't want to hear that.
She is acting a plum fool. And then the juxtaposition of her being very dramatic with Sierra forcing herself to cry is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Then at the funeral, they have this woman singing who
that hair was bad also, and she's singing some gospel song and trying to go in.
They look like they plucked her from like she worked at Pizza Hut and they just snatched her and told her sing. In this film, there could be a drinking game. Every time someone hits one of those whistle register high notes, like those mini Ripperton, Mariah Carey notes, and Shanice can. Oh, and Shantae Moore can also do it. We don't want to forget her. But anyway, well, many people can do it. But anyway, like you could have a drinking game every time someone does that. Like that's the mark of a talented singer.
It's not because
it's annoying. Because why at this funeral is this Pizza Hut employee like screeching?
This Pizza Hut employee who's wearing a dress with hair color and skin tone where she looks kind of like Jennifer Aniston, like a big piece of bread.
Yeah, she's all one color, like taupe. She's a taupe nightmare.
You are the top of my creme brulee. And then both mother and daughter see Luke, the brother. Is that his name, Luke?
Oh my God. The final scene is, Lynn and Sierra are standing at the funeral watching this taupe nightmare like holler. And then all of a sudden, we see the dead brother, son, and Sierra says to her mom, "Do you see him?" And the mom goes, "Yes."
And then he takes a picture of them.
And then he takes a picture of them. And then we go to the credits.
Oh, we also have to laugh because at one point Sierra's having nightmares after her brother's been kidnapped. And she's saying, is it to her agent where she's like, I keep seeing him like taking pictures of these little Middle Eastern looking children. And it's shot in a way that suggests that it's surreal. And then that is the same footage they use in the news story.
Yeah.
On the news.
I don't know. I don't even know if I could say this movie would be fun to watch with people and alcohol because it's taking itself very seriously.
You know what it needs to be enjoyable is a Mystery Science Theater sound. It needs a track attached to it. Or
what could really send this is if someone like dubs it. Someone out there, and I would love to be a part of it. Maybe I could do the brother's voice.
Somewhere out there, Fievel.
Someone needs to redub this movie and change all the lyrics. Yeah, because it was hard to sit through. I was very disappointed.
It was terribly disappointing, and there's a reason why it's not available on streaming, and I had to buy it for you on DVD for you to see it.
Ugh. What would you give this film?
A 0.5, the lowest you can give.
I would give it 1 out of 5 because I do think Lynn Whitfield and Ben Vereen are not. I mean, they definitely elevate the project. Like they're not bad
They're
actors.
not at all.
So it's not a port. I mean, to me, point five is like everyone in it is shit. And Ben Vereen and Lynn Whitfield are far from shit. It's just this.
It's still a 0.5 for me because it's still so painful to sit through. It's so
It's just really bad storytelling.
it's so ramshackle.
I mean, even as a play, I feel like watching this on stage would have been worse.
Yeah, but to me, this is demeaning to somebody of Ms. Whitfield's caliber. But you know,
Well, that's all I have for Mama. I want to sing.
and there's no comma in that, so it's Mama I want to sing.
Because you want to put a comma and an exclamation point throughout that statement, but there is none. So, Mama, I want to sing.
I want to be a singer, dude.
But I think for the podcast, I'm going to put a comma and an exclamation point.
I'm going to be grammatically correct, even if the film cannot.
Anyhow, what do we have going this week?
The Boogeyman.
Oh,
that is probably the big one. You never responded to me about several things while I was gone, including if you wanted to watch Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Is that a cartoon?
Yes.
No.
Okay. But yeah, it's actually kind of a slower week.
Well, good, because I have a lot of things I need to do outside of this.
Same as always. But yeah, so there's that.
Do you have a quote for us? Are you reading a book?
I'm reading Alien 3, the unproduced first draft screenplay by William Gibson, which was made into a novel by Pat Cadigan. And I'm reading that now because we are going to see a screening of Alien 3.
We are?
Yeah.
When?
Bleak Week at the Cinematheque, I think on June 6th.
Oh.
Is that when we have tickets for that? So this was William Gibson, who's a very notable screenwriter, had wrote the first pass on Alien 3, and it's been turned into a novel form. So I was very curious to read it. I can't say that I love it, if partially because William Gibson tried to put Ellen Ripley in a coma. So it's kind of like Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween Kills, where it's like the only real goddamn reason I want to watch this shit is for this woman. And maybe it's because Mr. Gibson didn't know how to really write such a heroic female for Alien 3. Anyway, but I should be, it's a very easy read. I should be done with that by the time we see that film.
All right. Well, that's all I have.
Okay.
All done?
Sure.
Ta-ta.